Hey, if you're into all the rock music that was happening right around 1990, this video is for you. And those of you that follow this channel know that one of the things we do on here is we go through old rock magazines. And what this is today is it's part 2. If you watch part 1, you know that what happened is I ordered a bunch of rock magazines off of eBay from somebody that was selling a whole pile of them. And they showed up and we opened the package and we started going through them. And we made about halfway through the stack. And we'd been talking for so long, we thought, well, we'll stop and then we'll pick it up in part 2. So these are the magazines we looked at in part 1. And so we're going to jump into the second half of these magazines that we got in this package and just kind of take a look. And then what we'll do is we'll come back later and we're just going to go through page by page and look at all the cool stuff that's in these magazines. And I just want to remind you really quickly, we film all of these videos when we do the magazines, especially, we film them all in 4K. So adjust your YouTube settings if you're watching on YouTube so that you can look at it in 4K and then you can see all the detail that we're able to see here in person. You should be able to see it pretty clearly through your web browser or your 4K television or whatever you happen to be watching this on. So with that, let's get started. See what we have here. Okay, so the first one, this is from, and I noticed last time that most of these that we were looking at were from 1990, and I think maybe what this person had was just the entire year or something like that. So anyway, rocking through the 1990s and beyond, there's Motley Crue, there's Vince Neil, of course, the X-Crew, what does that say? The excruciating quiz. Okay, vote for your favorite 1990 Reader's Poll ballot inside. And then we've got Poison, there's Bret Michaels, Sebastian Bach from Skid Row, Faith No More, we have Warrant, there's Janie Lane, of course, Faster Pussycat, Slaughter, Queensryche, there's Jeff Tate, Rat, Stephen Pearcy, and then of course Kip Winger right there, and then see extras, Off the Wire, Late Breaking Metal News, Judas Priest, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Remembered, Aerosmith, Megadeth, and more. Who do we have here? Queensryche. Gene Loves Jezebel. That is so amazing that they put Gene Loves Jezebel in a magazine like this. I actually really liked Gene Loves Jezebel, believe it or not. But, well, I shouldn't. They had a couple of albums that had a couple of good songs on them. It wasn't like I was just really, really into them. But they had some really cool songs. The song, it's the song Desire. And if you're interested in listening to Gene Loves Jezebel, go find the song Desire. It's actually a pretty cool tune. So, all right, so let's flip this over. Megadeth. This was Rust in Peace time period back in 1990. That's when this one was happening. So, man, the first time I ever heard of Dave Mustaine and Megadeth, I was at an Atom Bomb. Remember Atom Bomb? ADAM Bomb? I was in an Atom Bomb concert, and there couldn't have been 20 people. I mean, it was a place called the Rainbow Music Hall in Denver, Colorado, and it held probably 1,500 to 2,000 people. And there were 20 people at this concert. I feel it was anyway, and he was actually kind of awesome. But the reason I mention that is because as we were waiting for the concert to start, the guy sitting next to me starts talking about this band called Megadeth. And I'd never heard of them. I knew nothing about it. But he just went, Megadeth, 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 just kept talking and talking. And little did I know, because I had no idea what he's talking about, little did I know that later I'd be a big fan and you know, see him in concert. And anyway, I love Dave Mustaine and love the band. But anyway, so that was my little introduction to Megadeth way back when. But they had such cool stuff. Okay, next one. Let's see what we have here. Okay, Skid Row. Circus again, rocking through the 90s and beyond. 12 months to stardom. I wonder what that means. Okay, like I said, we're going to go back through these and we'll be taking a look at this. So there's Janie Lane again from Warrant, Vince Neil, James Hetfield, Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. It's kind of amazing, speaking of Steven Tyler, how they came back. Because here we are in 1990. And when you look back at the trajectory that they'd gone through, because Joe Perry had left and he started the Joe Perry Project, and they just, they were famous for all the fighting and the drama. And then, so he left, and then they bring in a guy named Jimmy Crespo, and matter of fact, speaking of Atom Bomb, Jimmy Crespo, who played on Rockin' a Hard Place with Aerosmith actually played with Adam Baum. And when I saw that concert I mentioned a minute ago, Jimmy Crespo was playing the guitar. Anyway, so they finally managed to get the band back together, and they did that album called Done with Mirrors, and that was produced by Ted Templeman, actually, the guy that produced Van Halen. And then they did Permanent Vacation after that, and they were just back. And it was just amazing because they'd kind of been, when Joe Perry left, it was the future of Aerosmith was just kind of in doubt. What's going to happen with this band? And then to see them come back together and try to make that comeback, and they came, did they ever come back? I mean, it's amazing because even though Done with Mirrors didn't do great, the next thing you know, with Permanent Vacation, it's just huge. And then what are they doing around the same time that was also part of the comeback was doing that song with Run DMC. And so here's Aerosmith that a lot of people probably just kind of written off. And they just exploded, and then they just had hit after hit. And it was just amazing how those guys came back and did what they did. And then they just kind of lasted through the 90s. And they just kept going. And so I saw them way back during that period too, and they were just, anyway, I love Aerosmith. They were awesome. So let's see, so Warrant, Motley Crue, let's see, so this would have been Takes the Road #1 LP. This is back in Dr. Feelgood time. And let's see, Metallica, Aerosmith, there we go. Yeah, Pump. Okay. Oh yeah, what's on the back? Oh, Britney Fox, Boys in Heat. So like, young kid versions of the guys in the band. Britney Fox, I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I barely ever listened to these guys. They were for all intents and purposes a spin-off band from Cinderella. A couple of guys that had been in Cinderella and they got kicked out for various reasons, and then they went off and formed this band, and they did okay. Although, like I said, I don't know. And if there's an album that I should own, I remember seeing them in the record stores. I never bought them. But if there's an album that we should own, or songs, or even if we should do a feature on them in one of these videos, just let me know. Because as you know, if you follow this channel, we do kind of listen to the things that people, the recommendations you make. And we've actually done several videos based on recommendations that people have made. So maybe this is one of them, although we don't know a lot about them, but maybe it's somebody we need to research and do some stuff about. Anyway, Britney Fox. Wow. All right, next one. Hang on just a second, this will be really quick. With hundreds of videos on our channel now, we've made playlists to make it easy for you to find whatever the thing is that you're interested in. We have a playlist with all of our Rush videos, Kiss, Led Zeppelin, Van Halen. We have categories like 80s metal and even our popular magazine flip-throughs, where we go through page by page with Circus Magazine, Hit Parader, and others, all in 4K resolution. You'll find it all organized and ready to explore. Just click the playlist tab on our channel's homepage. All right, back to the video. Rocking through the 90s again, two giant color pullouts, Skid Row and Slaughter. Man, both those bands were so big. And it's funny, we've talked about Vinnie Vincent on this channel a bunch. And it's funny thinking about how Vinnie Vincent just didn't really take off. And so then the guys, Mark Slaughter and Dana Strum leave Vinnie Vincent and they go start Slaughter and just become huge. Anyway, they were so big. It's amazing thinking about that. So, okay, so there's Axl Rose, Guns N' Roses, of course, Sebastian Bach there, Joe Elliott, John Bon Jovi. Again, we have Steven Tyler. Is that? Oh, I thought that looked almost like the same picture on the last magazine, but not quite. And there's Vince Neil again. Hey, check that out. Same picture. Guys at Circus, not being very creative there, reusing these same pictures on the cover again. Okay, anyway, there's Vince Neil, of course, Janie Lane again, and then David Coverdale. Man, I used to love Whitesnake so much, and they were, especially when you get back into the early days of Whitesnake. But by the time you got to this era, the Whitesnake that we had known, the spinoff of Deep Purple, was just not really there anymore. They'd really, really become commercialized. And I'm not saying that they were bad. It was just a different band by that point. But they were big. They knew, they knew how to make music that would sell, and they were doing really, really well. And then you have Lars right there from Metallica. And then, of course, you have Bret Michaels again from Poison. So let's see, down here we have Heavy Metal Fan Mail Guide, Faster Pussycat, Tesla, Slayer, Kiss, Pretty Boy Floyd, Testament, and more. Oh, look at this. Plus Grateful Dead, LA Guns. Can't really read under the label there, but okay, cool. Oh, Billy Idol. I got to tell you, I actually really loved Billy Idol. I saw him in concert. I think it was on the Whiplash Smile tour. And he was just, I just got to tell you, he was just awesome. I don't know what it was about him, but he had just this presence. And it was for lack of a better word, it was classy. I don't know how to explain it. But if you ever saw him in concert, it was so professional. Just the whole thing just felt it was just awesome. But this was an interesting one because it had the song Cradle of Love, Rock the Cradle of Love, if you remember that tune. That video, it was pretty interesting when they put out this song and that single, because if you remember the video, when he was in the video, he was always in, as the video was going, it would go into, as I recall, different rooms, and you'd never actually see him. He was always in the pictures on the walls, I think is how it was set up. But the reason they did that is because he was immobile at the time because he'd had a motorcycle accident. And so in order to make this music video, because he couldn't walk around and, do his normal Billy Idol stuff, they modified it so you would just kind of see him in these images, so he wouldn't have to be moving around on a stage or in some sort of a video. So anyway, you may remember that, but that was a cool tune. The best stuff that he ever did would be when you go back into the Rebel Yell period, But anyway, I really dug Billy Idol. I thought he was kind of awesome. Okay, what's next? Circus. This is a special rock awards issue. Let's see here. 20th annual Readers Poll winners. So it's got to be, it's got to be Vince Neil, but it kind of doesn't. It's not. Circus Magazine was not known for its great photos all the time. That's John Bon Jovi, of course. That's going to be Lita Ford, and that's got to be Sebastian Bach. So Motley Crue, Skid Row, Bon Jovi, Lita Ford, Poison, Warrant, Tesla again, Great White, Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, Metallica, and more. So best group, album of the year, male. Oh, this is going to be a fun one to read. Like I said, we're going to come back, but pretty soon we're going to put a schedule out, and we're going to let you know when we're going to be doing magazines. Right now, the shows we put out every day, obviously, are just kind of random. And what we're going to do in the very near future is we're going to have a schedule. And so you're going to know on certain days at certain times what's going to be happening. So anyway, that's coming up probably in about a month. We're going to finally get to that point, including in some point around there, we're going to start doing a live show. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to be doing so many cool things on this channel. But in the meantime, like I said, some of these shows are kind of just random, whatever we happen to be putting out on the day. This one is going to be super fun. Looking back at what their Readers Poll winners, that's going to be cool. Basket Case 2. So this is a movie. I kind of remember this. Basket Case. Do you remember this? This was a movie, right? I mean, it sure looks coming in February. I don't remember really anything about this. Who was in it? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about this. Was it a good movie? Did you see the movie? Did you see Basket Case 1? Because I don't even remember that. So that's really okay. But full page ad on the back of Circus Magazine for Basket Case 2. They believed in this movie somehow, and I don't remember it at all. That doesn't mean anything. There's a lot of things I don't remember, but okay. So here we go. Circus again. Let's see here. Circus, the year in metal. Circus, the year in metal. Bon Jovi. We have a supersized wall poster in this. By the way, when you had your circus magazines, did you keep them intact, or were you one of those people that got the scissors out and all these images ended up all over your walls? Anyway, just curious about that. I don't think I ever cut mine up, but I know a lot of people did. And then, of course, where would you put a lot of those pictures? In your locker at high school. I remember seeing those things in people's lockers. You could tell they came from these rock magazines. You open the locker door, just pictures, pictures, pictures of all the things. And you could learn a lot about a person back in high school by looking on the inside of their locker. When they'd open it up, you go, okay, I know all about you that fast. Anyway, okay. So we have Queensryche again. There's Jeff Tate, Axl Rose, of course, Kip Winger. We have Motley Crue again with Vince Neil. I think we mentioned Bon Jovi. Poison, Bret Michaels there. That almost looks... Is that like a Scream t-shirt or something? Huh. I don't know. So we have Warrant again, Janie Lane. There's Slaughter, Sebastian Bach. And then we have More Faith No More down there. So, and there it goes. It mentions Epic. Okay, plus we have Warrant, Trickster. Man, Trickster. Yeah, we talked about them last time, didn't we? Extreme, AC/DC, Bon Jovi, Winger, Anthrax. You know, I saw them, I think I mentioned this before. I saw them opening up, I believe it was for Kiss. And I didn't know much about them at the time, but they were such a fun band. I mean, the music was heavy and rocking, but there was just something about the energy that those guys brought to the stage that they were just fun. It was crazy, exciting. I don't know what it was. I can't explain it, but I really liked them. Let's see, Guns N' Roses, blah, 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 la, 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 la. Oh yeah, we were looking at this one. Anthrax, Judas Priest, Rat, and more. And then all these. All right, that one's going to be a fun one too. AC/DC, The Razor's Edge. Somebody's magazine got a little bit ripped here. Man, it is amazing how these guys can still fill up a stadium. It's one of those bands that a lot of what makes them still popular today is just the legacy. It's a little bit like Star Wars. That first stuff was just so good that they can just keep putting stuff out and it just doesn't matter. People still love it. And AC/DC, I don't know, some of their later albums weren't great, but the strength of that stuff that they did with Bon Scott and then the album Back in Black, just on its own, it was so... I mean, that album to this day is still spectacular, the album Back in Black. That thing, it's hard to even just imagine. It's hard to beat that album. And so it's just amazing that those guys... And that's part of, I think, why they've stuck around, because they were just a band for the people. It was just straight ahead, solid rock and roll. And it was so good. That stuff, by the time they got to the end of the time with Bon Scott, with Highway to Hell, like one of the most classic anthems ever written in the history of rock and roll. And then you get into Back in Black. And that album, every single song on that album was excellent. And it was produced well. I mean, it sounded so good. Brian Johnson, the best performance of his entire life, no matter, I mean, anything that he ever did. There's nothing he ever did before or after, in my opinion, that was anywhere near what he pulled off on Back in Black. It was just so good. The next album, For Those About to Rock, he was close. And the song For Those About to Rock was just as good, in my opinion, as anything that was on Back in Black. It was such a great song. But the album For Those About to Rock wasn't quite as good as Back in Black, but it was a great follow-up. But again, they had just set themselves up. This stuff was so epic and it was so great. Back in Black's still one of the greatest selling albums of all time, that they've been able to, even though a lot of people felt like some of the stuff that came after was a little bit lackluster, like Fly on the Wall, and it still just carried them. And they're just still just great. It's just great music. And there's just something about it that'll still pack a stadium. And it's incredible what those guys have done. So anyway, Razor's Edge right here. Okay. Looks like we've got one more. Let's see what's on this one. Some of the same bands. It's so funny. I mean, look at all this stuff, and then there's Lita Ford, kind of right in the mix. And it's funny how much she stands out when you look at all this stuff, and then there's Lita Ford. So, okay. So there's Kiss. That's got to be Paul Stanley, although it's not, doesn't look, I mean, that's got to be him, but it doesn't look totally like him. But anyway, Lita Ford, there's Poisoning with Bret Michaels, Mark Slaughter. They were just cool. I loved a lot of their music. They were, anyway, I talked about them a minute ago. They were great. And then we have Jeff Keith again from Tesla, and then LA Guns, Faster Pussycat, Bruce Dickinson, and it's covered up, the name, but that's Danger. I can't tell you anything about them other than the band name. And so there's probably going to be people right about now typing in the comments, what is your problem? They were great. And telling us which album we need to buy and that we should do a show on Danger. That's because that's usually what happens when I make a comment like that. So I don't know anything about them, and let me know. What should we know about them? What's the good music? What are the songs? And always curious. And it's, I tell you, one of my favorite things about this channel is not just because I'm having fun doing all this, but I've been introduced to a lot of really cool stuff. I mean, a lot of people have commented in some of these videos, and then I'll just go look that stuff up. And there's some bands and songs that I've been introduced to that for whatever reason I just missed way back when, and I listened to them like, that's actually pretty cool. And there's a few things people recommended that I still think aren't that great, but it's been this is an education, hopefully for all of us, because if you spend a little bit of time reading down through the comments, you'll probably be introduced to stuff that you've never heard of, like I am frequently. So that's one of the fun things about this channel, is that the communal part of it, where we're all kind of maybe experiencing things that experiencing the nostalgia, and also experiencing some new things that we, for whatever reason, missed 30 years ago. 30, 40, man. Yeah, 35, 40 years ago. Okay. So right here, anything else on here? Male guide. I can't read that very well. And then Faster Pussycat and Slaughter posters in this one. Okay, let's flip it over. Oh, and there we have it. Poison, Flesh and Blood. Remember the song Unskinny Bop? That was a cool tune. I have to admit, I like that song. It was super catchy. And then Something to Believe In. That was another one of those songs that when that came out, MTV had that thing on rotation so much. And as I recall in that video, Bret Michaels at one time, in the middle of that song, if you watch the video, he actually tears up. I don't remember the story. Somebody will probably put it in the notes. There was somebody that had passed away, and he sings about, it's been so long, I probably could have told you the story back 35 years ago, but I can't right now. But it was somebody that had passed away, and he was singing about him in the song, and then on the screen there was like a picture of him or something, and then he was kind of singing, and then you see him kind of like pause. So because he's lip syncing the song, obviously the recording, and then like you see his mouth like he can't carry on, and then they just kept it in the video. It was kind of cool, very personal moment to capture like that. So anyway, so these are all going to be such fun magazines to check out. So hey. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Like I said, we're going to have a schedule out really soon. All these magazines you've seen, at some point we're going to do a video where we're just going to flip through them and talk about them. And if you're not following the channel, please follow. We've got so many cool things coming up. I'm in the process of hiring some more people to run the board so we can be a little more efficient in our recording, and also to get ready for some live shows that we're going to start doing. I'm hiring some other people that are going to come in and be on camera it's going to be, I'm very excited about it. We'll just put it that way. So lots of cool stuff happening. So please follow the channel. And we get contacted a lot these days because the channel keeps growing. And we get contacted by a lot of people that asking about what they can do to help, and just kind of excited about the things that are happening. And the biggest thing you can do right now is take this video, go hit the share button, and just go share it with other people. Put it on your social media, put it on your Facebook, send it over Messenger, email it to people, because if you enjoy this, I'm guessing that there's probably people that you interact with or people that you know that would also enjoy this stuff too. And it'd be doing us a doing us a great favor, just letting other people know about it, sending them a link. Anyway, we really appreciate that. Like the video, of course, and as always, your comments are so awesome, and they're educational, and so many people have so many thoughtful things they put in there, and the comment sections on these videos, in some of these things, become just communities where hundreds and hundreds of people are interacting and sharing stories and memories, and it's really, really cool. And so anyway, we appreciate all of it. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and with that, have yourself a fantastic day.